Hey everyone, welcome to A Mess Nonetheless. I am Rachel.
And I'm Melissa, and we are sisters. And we hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Yay, happy Thanksgiving late.
Yeah, we're in the month of Christmas, which is so exciting. Very few people don't like Christmas. I think most people love Christmas.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like Christmas music, which I have found, which is odd to my brain.
I don't even understand that. I can't even comprehend that.
My mind, yeah.
It's like, I wait
so we don't understand you.
No. You guys, if you have not taken time to go on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and rate us, write a review if you would be willing. Yes. Give us the 5 stars that we are just sure you would give us. We've mentioned before, if you're not going to give us 5 stars, just don't even bother rating us. But all joking aside, really, we do appreciate those. It spits us out into the algorithm. It helps other people find us. So yes, if you haven't taken time to do that, share us too. Share us on Facebook and Instagram, wherever you are, even through text, wherever you are communicating with people. We would love if you would take time to do that. So, all right. Well, today we are talking about anger and being mindful in our anger.
Anger.
So I guess I had some questions when I was like thinking about this topic, and it was kind of like, when is okay to be angry? Like, is it okay to be angry? Like, how do we know we're angry? Yeah. What did you say?
I just said, is it okay to be angry? Yeah.
Yeah. What did Jesus do when he faced people who are angry? What are we supposed to do when we face people who are angry? What are we supposed to do in our own anger? Right? So many questions. Like, and I don't know that we will answer every single question today in this 30-minute episode. It seems unlikely that we would, but we sure are going to discuss it. So hopefully you'll get something out of this. I really have a hard time imagining that there would be someone listening who doesn't deal with anger themselves, or a person in their life who's regularly angry. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree, one or the other, because I can share more about this later in the episode, but it took me a long time for myself to be okay with being angry.
Yeah.
But I've had angry people in my life. So yes.
Right. Yeah. So I think we all fall on the spectrum somewhere of, and I think, I think it's a good topic. I'm glad that we're talking about it. So first of all, is anger okay?
Yeah. I would say it is.
I think there's a Bible verse that says that. No, just kidding.
Yes. No, it definitely, anger is an emotion. God created a slew of emotions in us. And so one of the things, for a long time, I think I would have said anger is not okay. I would have, because I've been hurt by anger, being directed at me. And what I've learned is that the feeling of anger is absolutely okay. And I believe it's biblical too. Rachel, you have some verses that I can't zero in on at this moment.
Yeah.
I don't have my readers. You guys, I have transitioned into needing readers, and I left them across the room, and I can't read my phone. So I have to,
literally on your phone. Mine's on my computer.
Yeah. Overnight, it's like I have to hold things, 2 feet away, and oh my gosh.
So funny. I'm definitely in that phase where my kids are like, look at this. And I'm like, okay. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'm like holding it further and further and further away.
Yes, exactly.
So yes, Melissa said just exactly right. Anger, God created anger. And we're going to talk about when is anger like a problem, right? So don't get us wrong. We are going to talk about that. But God created anger. God himself demonstrated anger and still does, I think, to this day. But that's very biblical. I think we can know without a shadow of a doubt that anger in and of itself is not sin, because both God and Jesus display anger. And so obviously if they are perfect and they cannot sin, then what they do, we can know, or what they experience, we can know is not in and of itself sin. No, I'm not saying you can't sin in your anger.
Correct.
But like Jesus, he experienced overwhelm or being anxious. So it's like, okay, that in and of itself is not sin. And
Simple.
I think that's, I think that's very important to distinguish that a lot of us feel like there's just something wrong with anger, but there isn't, because then there'd be something wrong with God and there'd be something wrong with Jesus. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, literally what you just said. It's so easy to feel like there is something wrong with the feeling of anger. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think it feels good ever personally to be angry or to have someone be angry at me. And I think that's why it feels wrong. But I also don't ever feel good being overwhelmed or nervous or
Right.
sad. Like that never feels good.
Right. Yeah.
So
Grief doesn't feel good.
exactly. But those are not sinful things. And so, I mean, we can
No.
just look at the Bible and there are just examples all over it of times when anger comes from God or Jesus, like just a few examples. God's wrath in the Old Testament included the worldwide flood, right? In Genesis, the destruction of Sodom, the defeat of the Egyptians to free his people. Just a few examples. There's so many more. But when it comes to God and Jesus, their anger is always righteous, which essentially means it's always good and okay.
Right. It's right. Yeah.
It's right. Yeah, duh. It's in the word. It's right anger.
I got you.
You got me. You got me. When Jesus went into the temple courts and saw people selling, doves, cattle, sheep, things that they could profit off because people needed these items to make a sacrifice. And he was mad that they had turned the temple, God's, house, if you will, into, what did he say? A den of robbers. And he started flipping over tables. Like, I wouldn't think flipping over tables would be okay, but like Jesus did because he had this righteous anger. I mean, and God destroyed the whole city of Sodom. Like, that's a righteous anger. It's hard for me to understand, really. I think probably all of us could say that. Like, I don't really understand all of, the nuances of anger and righteous anger and all that. But we can look to the Bible and see that there are times when anger is okay from God and from Jesus. And I'm not saying, exactly, justified. And I think that's really an important thing. However, that's righteous anger. And then there's just regular anger. And I mean, I just made this up. So I don't know that anyone would be like, those are real things, regular anger or righteous anger. But to me, righteous anger is right. It's,
righteous anger is,
It's, And then there's just regular anger. I'm mad that guy took my parking spot. I'm mad that person didn't call me back, right? And that is not righteous anger per se. We're just mad because something happened to us. And the Bible is very clear that while we experience these emotions and that they are in and of themselves not exactly wrong, that we are not to sin in that anger, righteous anger, regular anger, that the problem isn't having anger. The problem is what we do in our anger.
Yes, how we act while we're feeling it. Yep.
Exactly. And so we've got a whole bunch of verses that we're going to talk about. The first one is in Ephesians 4. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are members of one body. In your anger, do not sin. So we're members of one body, meaning we are all on the same team. Like we are all, especially, Christians and Christians, but even non-Christians and Christians, God made us all. God loves us all.
Humanity.
Yeah, he made us in his image. So we are all on the same team, whether we're, following Jesus or not. We are all one body. Do not sin in your anger. It doesn't say don't be angry. It says don't sin in it. And then do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. And in this way, do not give the devil a foothold. So, I mean, I've gone to sleep angry for sure. I know, Melissa, you have, and I think most people do.
I think about that a lot, actually, because I wonder if it is not, I mean, this is just my wondering. I have no proof one way or the other, but I've wondered if it is more metaphorical than literal, because sometimes the best thing you can do is give yourself a break before you continue. And so sometimes if you're fighting at night, that means in order to like reset, sometimes you have to go to sleep. And so I don't necessarily know that I've been married for 25 years and we've absolutely gone to sleep. And, but what has happened is that like without resolving, but then in the morning we're calmer and so for me, I think I wonder if it's more about don't move on to the next thing until you have it figured out. Like
that's exactly how I interpret it too. Now, I'm not saying it's good to go to sleep angry at someone, but if you're like, let's agree to sleep on this, then I don't think that's going to sleep angry, even though everything isn't resolved, because everything does not get resolved in one night. And clearly, I mean, look at the fall of humanity. Jesus, I mean, God could have resolved it in one night, but he spent thousands of years waiting for the redemption story, and it's still not complete because we still all live in this sinful world. And so I look at it like that. Like, it's not okay if my husband or you or, my mom is saying, please talk to me. And I'm like, nope, 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 nope. And then I go to bed like that. That is giving the devil a foothold in my life. Bitterness to creep in, And so, and then that hurts me and it hurts my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But if you and I are not seeing eye to eye on something and you're like, you know what, this isn't going anywhere. Could we just sleep on it, pray on it,
Pause.
and talk in the morning, and we come back to it? Like you said, we don't move on to the next thing. So that is how I interpret it as well. Like you said, there's no absolute proof that that's what it means. But I'm just like, biblically, nothing ever got resolved like that. I mean, very few things did. I mean, even creation took 7 days. You know, it's like.
Right. And the reason I want to share that is because as I was a really young bride, Rachel, you were a young bride, and that was advice that I was given at least a lot by like older people is don't ever go to bed angry. And when we got to the place where we're like, we only see each other at night. So if we're fighting, it's happening at night. Like, and now, and it kind of wrecked me for a while. Like I felt tore up. I had a hard time letting myself go to sleep at night, even though we weren't getting anywhere because I felt like I was doing something wrong. And as the years have gone on, I'm like, I just don't know that this is as literal as it sounds, as a lot of the Bible isn't so literal.
I straight up tell my kids, you know what? I think it's only going to get worse if we keep talking about this tonight. I think it's really important that we come back to this tomorrow when we've had
to cool off,
rest.
Settle down. Yeah. Get rest.
Yeah. So that's the way, I mean, take it or leave it, you guys. That is how but I mean, that's how we interpret it, but it is very important that things get resolved. I think that's the biggest part of it is that in our anger, we're not sinning and that we're resolving things. Otherwise, we do give the enemy a foothold in our life. He's got a hold on us, and that's obviously going to go all sorts of bad ways.
Yeah.
And then in James, it says, dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen. We talked about this a couple episodes ago. Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And remember, I said, I'm really good at one, but I've mixed up a couple of the other ones. But slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. So human anger, that's what I'm going to call regular anger, right?
Yeah.
And then there's God's anger, which we can't ever be 100% sure that ours is perfectly matching his righteous anger. But we know human anger. We know it. We all know it. We've all experienced it from one side or the other or both. And we know, and the Bible says it does not produce the righteousness that God desires. And so while we have anger, it matters what we do in it. And like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I do things wrong in my anger all the time. Like I don't even know if anger is the right word. Cause when I get mad at my kids, and I'm like, you guys, nobody's listening. You are, whatever. And we all do that. I mean, I think a lot of us do it, I should say.
It sounds like exasperation more than anger.
Exactly. I'm not angry at them. I'm just overwhelmed by them. Either way, my yelling and exploding is sin. And I know that. And that when I do that, it's so important that we come back and apologize. If I say something to Melissa that I don't really mean, but just because I'm angry, that's sin, right? And I have sinned against her, and I've now put something that I'm like, that wasn't true. I shouldn't have said that. Now she has to deal with, well, did she really mean that? Because she did say it, and so it's like, don't sin in your anger. Work super hard to be slow to anger and slow to speak, especially when you're angry, because otherwise we hurt relationships, we hurt ourselves, we hurt the people we love. Were you going to say something?
No, I think I've shared this on here. I know that I've spoken about it publicly before and probably even wrote a little bit about it in my book. My husband has struggled with anger. This is something that he has totally given me permission to talk about. And it has very much hurt our marriage. He went through a few years where he was an over-the-road trucker. He was working 100 hours a week. He was never home. He was never sleeping. We were barely making ends meet financially. It's like the circumstances of everything outwardly were completely getting him down, and he responded to it by being just kind of angry at the world. And I, being his safe person in the world, got the brunt of it. And that is how he would say hurtful things when he would be angry. And then he would later be like, well, I didn't mean it. And it's very, 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 very confusing to the person hearing the things, because I had to spend time being like, okay, especially because sometimes they say when the things are said in anger, they're said really close to home. Like maybe if it's not 100% accurate, but it comes right alongside of something that's maybe almost accurate. So it could almost be true. I don't know. And so,
it's close to an insecurity.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
When you're trying to hurt somebody by getting them close to an insecurity. That's absolutely, I mean, it's sinful. It's hurtful. It's damaging.
It is damaging. Yep, for
Mhm.
sure. Mhm. And then
So,
Matthew,
oh,
or do you want me to read Matthew?
sure, go ahead.
I can see it now. I put it far enough away so
Okay.
I can see it. Matthew says, "But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." And persecute is a big, heavy word that
Right.
I don't know that a lot of Americans really are
Experience.
persecuted. Yeah,
Mhm.
but we are. We live in a really volatile world right now, a really volatile country, and so just even knowing when people don't line up with you
Mhm.
with your political stance or anything like
Mhm.
that, it's often very, very verbal and loud, and
Mhm.
those things you can feel persecuted, even if it's not directly at you, just like kind
Right.
of the way someone might talk about your beliefs
Mhm.
or and yeah. So to pray
Yeah.
for people that are
Well, I
hurting
mean,
you.
it could be someone you feel like is your enemy, just somebody on the other side. It could be somebody you
Yep.
love, but they just feel like they're. I mean, I
Yeah.
definitely have had that with even family where it's like you feel like my enemy because everything is so
Yeah.
like heated between us, and it's
Yeah.
like the Bible says, pray for them, love
Yep.
them. Like
Yep.
it's not to turn inward and just stew, which we're
Hmm.
very good at doing. I mean, I definitely know I've been that way,
Right.
ruminating and replaying conversations, but none of that is biblical. The biblical way to deal when somebody feels like their enemy is pray for
Yeah.
them
Well,
and love
and
them.
it softens your heart
It
because
does.
so when Bill and I were going through, when we went to counseling, premarital counseling before we got married, one of the things that we were taught that we did for years and years and years and years into our marriage
Mhm.
was hold hands when we were fighting.
Mhm.
And I never wanted to hold his hand. I'm like, are you
No,
kidding me? I'm
gross.
mad at you. I don't want to
Yeah,
touch you
get away from
because
me.
then and he would make me and it would immediately soften me, which is partly why I didn't want to do it because
Right,
I wanted to be mad at
right,
him.
correct.
And so, but prayer does the same thing when you pray for the
Mhm.
person who's making you
Mhm.
angry or hurting you or offending you.
Right,
You cannot pray for them
right.
without softening your heart.
It's true. It's just absolutely the way that God works.
Mhm.
No, I absolutely think that's yes. And I
Yeah.
am so glad that no one gave Joey that advice because I would never want to hold his hands when I'm mad at him. And I think the
Yes.
worst version of me would come out if he was like, "You're gonna hold my hands." I'd be like, "I don't live here anymore." No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, "Ooh, you can't make me."
Yeah.
I need my
Yeah.
space, but you're totally right. Like it's
Mhm.
softening and yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So the third one we're going to talk about is just like how to respond to someone's anger. And
Yeah.
there's a couple of stories in the Bible that where Jesus is responding to somebody's anger. And I just
Mhm.
love these stories. One's in Matthew, and this is when he heals somebody, and they're all mad. The Pharisees are mad. I'm trying to remember the backstory because I read it earlier in the day. I think this is the one where he healed on the Sabbath. I could be wrong. But either way, he does something. He restores a man. He heals him, and the Pharisees are mad. And now they're
Oh, for sure. It was on the Sabbath. That's why they were mad.
okay. They're
Mhm.
plotting how to kill him, right? So they're
Mhm.
pretty mad. I mean, they're plotting how to
Yeah.
kill him. I mean, I've had some people be
Yeah.
mad at me, but I don't think any of them have ever plotted. Like that's
They've
pretty
had a
extreme.
written out
A
how to
death
kill
plan.
Angel.
It's pretty extreme. So here they are,
Definitely,
and
yeah.
aware of this, Jesus withdrew from that place, and a large crowd followed him, and he healed all who were ill. What I love so much about this is he didn't go head to head with them. He didn't stand up and declare his innocence. He just withdrew and he went on
Mhm.
healing people. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I love that. There's so much like gentleness in that. And it's such a reminder that like we don't always have to go head to head with people. Sometimes withdrawing, just leave it to
Says
God. What
Well,
were you
and
saying?
also it says a lot to withdraw because the person who's
Mm-hmm.
super fired up and angry at you,
Mm-hmm.
you might feel like you're letting them win if you like turn around and walk away, but
Right.
you're actually kind of like making it worse for them because
Yeah,
they're ready for a fight. And if you leave
exactly.
them stewing
Mhm.
without anyone to fight with,
Right.
now they're kind of just left with themselves. And so
Yes.
you're not letting them off the hook because that is something that can feel like that. Well, if they're being so
Yeah.
mean right now and I'm just gonna be gentle and walk away,
Mhm.
it feels like you're maybe the one wussing out, but you're actually not. It takes so much more
Yeah.
like
Strength and
courage and
courage.
strength to be able to walk away
Yep.
quietly from a fight than to
Mhm.
get into the fight.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and the other story is in Luke, and this is when he's like basically he reads this scripture from that they had been reading their whole lives and says this is basically about me. He says no
Yeah.
prophet is accepted in his hometown, and they're all enraged because they're like, "I'm sorry,
Yeah.
who do you think you are to like
Yeah.
point to scripture and say this is basically me.
Yep.
And all the people in the synagogue were furious when they heard this. They got up and drove him out of town, took him to the brow of a hill. I think that's an edge, because other versions I think say edge, which the town was built on, in order to throw him off the cliff. So,
Another death plan.
More plotting, more death plans, right? And what does he do? He walked right through the crowd and went on his way. And I'm like, doesn't that seem like something our dad would do?
He would.
Like, me and Mom
and be like, well,
I know, here I go, walking through the crowd. Like our dad is so much like Jesus in that way. And the three of us, you, me, and Mom, we'd be like, "Ooh, where are my girls? We need to fight this." I mean, you could be more like Dad in that way for sure. But I do love our spunk.
Yes. Although I will say that because I have dealt with an angry husband for many years, I have become more this person of.
Yeah. Oh, I totally believe that. Yeah.
And so I would be able to pull out my quietness and walk through.
That's right.
I can pull out my spunk when needed, but I can pull out my quietness when needed.
That's right. You have so much of both Mom and Dad in you. And I just love that he just walks through the crowd. They're trying to throw him off the cliff and he just walks away. He withdrew.
I like imagine him. I know he didn't wear jeans and sandals, but I imagine him in his sandals with his hands in his pockets of his jeans, just walking through. Like, I don't even need my hands because I'm just going to walk right through.
That's literally how Dad walks, with his hands in his pockets.
No, that's what I was thinking.
Dad, we see Jesus in you.
Yes, we do. The way that you walk.
Mom, we see Jesus in you too. But in this very instance, we're talking about Dad.
When Jesus was flipping over the tables, that's where we would see Mom.
That's Mom. And that's where we go.
You don't.
She got some good righteous anger in her. And actually, I think Dad could absolutely pull that out too. But so how to respond to someone else's anger?
He did tackle a guy at, okay, you guys, so I just have to share the story.
Sunshine Music Festival.
Yes, we talk about our mom a lot, but we don't talk about our dad a ton. But he is this quiet, calm, very logical, very
hands in his
even,
pocket, rocking back on his feet.
Yep. Doesn't
nodding.
Get super emotional one way or the other. Like, I don't know that I've hardly seen him be angry, but I've also never seen him be overly excited. Like he's just kind of very steady. Well, he brought a bunch of kids, high school kids, years ago to I don't think Sunshine Music Festival exists anymore, does it?
I don't know if it does or doesn't, but that's where we were. Yeah.
Yeah. But they were there. And I don't remember exactly what happened. Did somebody
he like did something and the cops were chasing him and he ran right
not
by
our dad. Not our dad, a kid,
no, some other
kid,
kid,
a guy, somebody did something that the cops were chasing. And our quiet little dad got up and took him to the ground. Tackled him through the ground.
Got him for the cops.
I think that's one of Bill's favorite stories. My husband Bill, that would totally be something he would do. So he's like, "Go, Kurt!" Oh
my gosh, it's so funny. Yeah, so we've definitely experienced both of that from our parents, which I love. So how do we respond to someone's anger? Sometimes we withdraw. Definitely, we leave it to God, and staying calm, I think, is always the best. I mean, the Bible is so clear about. What were we going to say?
Yeah. I was going to say it's literally the only way you know how to respond is if you're calm. Because if you get
you can't trust your responses any other way.
Right.
So I love this verse in Ecclesiastes. If a ruler's anger rises against you, do not leave your post. Calmness can lay a great offense to rest. Calmness can lay great offenses to rest. I love that. I've read Ecclesiastes before. I don't remember that verse. I had never seen that verse to mind. I mean, I have read it, but I don't have any recollection of reading it. I was like, well, that's cool. If a ruler's anger rises against you, don't leave your post, because standing there calmly can lay great offenses to rest. And I just love that.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, obviously we're talking about what it says biblically about how to respond, but since we're talking about how to respond to someone's anger, because so when I met my husband, he was like the happiest, kindest, most gentle man I'd ever met. Like I bet we were together for almost a decade before I saw any anger in him. So it definitely took me by surprise. So that was part of it. Took me a while to figure out how to deal with it because I didn't know this about him. I mean, I'd heard a little stories about him when he was like in high school and stuff, that he would get mad, but I never saw it for myself. So I thought maybe people were just, I don't know. I just didn't think it was him. And so when he started getting angry, I would get very emotional and very reactive, and it would become this big emotional thing. And then
his anger upset you.
His anger made me so sad that, and I felt like I needed to like talk him down and like help him to understand why, you know, like stop being so angry, like whatever. And it just made him feel unheard. And then he would get more upset. And so it just became these big fights. But when I started to just either listen to him, like if his anger was just like, I'm hurt. And so, cause like his hurt or his fear will come out as anger sometimes. So if in those moments when I just listen to him and just let him be, he calms himself down and he doesn't need me to calm him down. But when he's like being mad at me and like angry at me, I have learned to just stand tall and tell him, you know, like you don't get to talk to me like that. I'm going to leave. When you're ready to talk to me kinder, we can talk. And yeah, and it's the staying calm just, and it does let a lot of offense to rest, because he would calm, because then he felt kind of silly because he just standing there being all angry by himself.
Right. Like you said, it just kind of leaves them with themselves and their own anger. Yeah. It's just me and my anger. Yep. Not a great place to
apologize.
Be.
No,
yeah, exactly. Psalm 34:14 says, turn away from evil, do good. We obviously all know that. Seek peace and pursue it. I mean, we've talked about this with conflict, like seek peace. Like we always need to seek peace in our relationships. Not every conflict can be resolved to the place where the relationship survives, right? We talked about that, but it is our job to seek peace at all costs. And that doesn't mean, when I say at all costs, I don't mean like at the expense of like,
your dignity or your integrity or
peace does not mean you just like lay yourself down and let people walk over you. That's not what I mean. But like true biblical peace is working to get to the other side with the person. And you can't have peace when you're just like both angry or one of you's angry. It just doesn't, peace and anger don't go together. You have to get like through the anger to get to the peace. And so if you've got someone who's coming at you angry, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, I think you can maintain a sense of peace while someone is being angry at you. Like, I think peace and anger can coexist. Just
our
not within
own
the same
anger.
Person. Yeah.
I don't think our own anger can coexist with peace.
That's what I just said. Yeah, not internally, not one person.
Sure.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page.
When another person's angry at us, we can maintain peace. But if we engage in that anger with them, now the peace is gone.
Right. I just think everything that we're talking about right now, I just keep thinking of I think about Facebook. Like there is just so much anger all over Facebook. And a lot of it comes from believers. Like it's not just non-believers. A lot of the mouthiness and the lippiness.
It's terrible.
So first of all, if you struggle to keep your mouth quiet, get off Facebook. Like seriously, Bill had to get off Facebook because he struggled. He's so justice oriented that he couldn't just like move on from what people were saying that he didn't like. So he got off for a long, long time because he knew that it was hurting him. And, but if you're like, well, no, I can handle myself, then do it. Show up and be a peacemaker, a peacekeeper. Like don't exasperate what's already so exasperated and terrible out there. And
well, and there can be absolute peace in the midst of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not an argument, debate.
Yeah. And you don't have to agree. It doesn't, peace doesn't mean agreeing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think somebody we feel like, go ahead.
Well, somebody who seeks peace is okay with being in a, like a disagreement or what is the word I'm looking for? What did you just say?
I don't know what I said.
You don't have to agree. A disagreement. Oh my gosh. I'm like, what?
What word do I put before agreement?
Oh my gosh, how stupid am I? What's the word that sounds like agreement, but you're not? Oh, disagreement. Right. Oh my gosh, I'm having a hard time right now.
That's funny.
What I'm saying is there can be peace. We can pursue peace in the midst of disagreement. And it doesn't look like everyone agrees. It looks like keeping calm, listening to people, validating people, wanting to be heard, but in a respectful way and not in a demanding way. And there is not enough of that in our world, especially on Facebook.
There's not. No. And it makes me the saddest when I see believers being the worst. I mean, I really do. It's like, you guys, we're like the quickest to condemn. We're like the quickest kind of across the board. Obviously I'm
judge
it makes me sad.
It makes me so sad. It makes me righteously angry.
It does. It makes me want to flip a whole bunch of your tables.
It does. Yes. My dining room table is 600 pounds. It is concrete. And I think maybe I could even flip it. Of course, it'd be shattered and I couldn't get it back together.
And now you would have just hurt yourself because now your table's broken.
I should come to your house and flip your table. It doesn't weigh as much.
Doesn't, but they also don't want it broken.
Exactly. True. So the last verse we have is Romans 12:19. Beloved, never avenge yourselves. Leave room for the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine. I will repay, says the Lord. If you are in a disagreement with somebody and you truly feel like they are in the wrong and you are not being heard and you're not seeing, it's not really for us to make them understand us. Don't get me wrong. I want to be understood. Yeah. I want to, for that to come to a place of rest. But sometimes it doesn't. And we are not to take vengeance. We are not to go and badmouth them. We are not to go and make their life hard. It is for just us to bring to God and leave in his hands.
And trust that he's going to deal with it. Exactly. We don't know what that means. We don't know how that's going to work. But if the other person who we want to seek vengeance on, whatever that looks like, is, especially if they're also seeking Jesus, they're going to have their God smack. God is going to talk to them. He's going to get a hold of them. Obviously, if there's someone who isn't seeking Jesus, we're not even playing on the same playing field because we're coming from two different totally points of views as 100%, because one is biblical, hopefully, and one is worldly. And and so really we need to walk away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess
I can't even watch vengeance. Makes me sick to my stomach, to be honest with you. I can't even watch the John Wick movies because it's all about him avenging his family that was. I can't do it. I can't watch them.
You're like, that ain't biblical.
Well, it's not like I need to watch movies that are all biblically based, but it just hurts my soul. I can't handle it.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I told Bill it's probably because I could see if somebody had hurt his whole family, this is who he would become, and I can't handle it.
No, he absolutely would. We all know it to be true. He's a total 8 on the Enneagram.
Disoriented all the way.
Well, my challenge today for people is, where do you struggle the most with anger? And which verse today or thing that we said today stopped you in your tracks and really needs to be maybe meditated on, especially if it's a verse applied, if you will.
Yeah.
All right. I just realized I forgot to prepare a ministry to spotlight. So that's unfortunate. However, I can pull one out of the hat because I know that I was going to look them up. So I will talk about Selah. Let me look them up on Instagram so I can do everything right. So Selah is the coolest, seriously, organization. I have bought a lot of jewelry from them. That's pretty much, I think, all they do is jewelry. Hold on. I'm on the wrong Instagram and I got to find them. So it's this woman and she's just like a regular mom of 4 kids. And it's Selah, S-E-L-A Designs. S-E-L-A Designs. And this mom basically created this ministry where 100% of the profits, 100% of the profits.
I mean, that's unheard of. 100%.
It is unheard of.
That means all the overhead. I mean, crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, the profits. So after the overhead is taken care of.
I understand that. I'm just saying, she's doing it all for free.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that means anyone she gets to help her is probably also doing it for free. So the 100% of the profits goes to orphan care, fighting human trafficking, and job creation. And I know if you go to their website, she's in Appleton, Wisconsin, which is, I'm not actually sure how I heard of her now that I think about it. But either way, her jewelry is amazing. She is beautiful. It is high quality. It is well done. And they'll stand by it. I've had a few, light necklaces. I mean, eventually they do break, right? Or one time I ordered a necklace and then it sat in a box for 6 months. Well, apparently it needs to breathe. And so then it was kind of tarnished. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. If I'd known you were going to, and I bought it for a gift. She's like, if I'd known, I would have packaged it differently. And she sent me a new one. Just amazing. Yeah. So the website is selahdesigns.com. Seriously, guys, their stuff is so great. Jewelry that changes the world. They design.
I'm shopping right now, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. They value radical generosity and 100% go to these things. Now, she's got a whole list of places that they donate to, and it's International Justice Mission, things like that. And you can read all about it on her website. I highly recommend you just take some time, look into it. She does offer sales once in a while, and then I will like buy things because I mean her jewelry is really well done. But obviously, you know, if I'm gonna buy a bunch of things at once, it can add up. And so if it's a sale, especially Black Friday, I'm realizing now Black Friday's already over. So people will not.
Good luck for next year.
Do that for this year.
Mark your calendar.
Put it in your calendar. Sailor Designs. So, and
they
I
do have some sweatshirts
too,
and t-shirts.
Really, I think that might be new because I've been buying from her for like 5+ years. Yeah. They have apparel and you can read all about their generosity. Yeah. And they also every year she posts like how much basically they made and donated. So Mercy House, Global International Justice Mission, ESMA, Ministries of Africa, Ebenezer Grace Children's Home. These are just some that they donate to. So I just think it's so great.
Yeah. So love it.
Selah Designs. ELA. Definitely go check them out. So I love that. And I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to like actually pull out the information. But the truth is I've been buying from her for so long. Like I can just say this. So yeah.
Perfect.
All right, you guys.
All right.
Well, have a great day. And let us know what God's doing in your life as a result of these episodes. We always like to hear it.
We do. All right. Bye guys.
Bye.
You might feel that your life is a mess, but don't feel bad. Ours is too, but we own a microphone and we have no shame. That's why we'll talk about how our life is a mess nonetheless. That's the name of our podcast.